But anyway, we're going to move on to our next subject, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk about Star Wars and Game of Thrones all in one conversation.
So, how many nerds' head just exploded
I know.
listening to that?
We're not going to spend much time on it because I want to save a lot of time for a movie review tonight. But according to an article on IndieWire.com, Game of Thrones creators David Benioff and D.B. Weiss have stepped away from the Star Wars franchise after being attached for more than a year to develop a new trilogy of films beyond the Skywalker saga. In a statement from the two, we love Star Wars. When George Lucas built it, he built us too. Getting to talk about Star Wars with him and the current Star Wars team was a thrill of a lifetime, and we will always be indebted to the saga that changed everything. There are only so many hours in a day, and we felt we could not do justice to both Star Wars and our Netflix projects, so we are regretfully stepping away. Okay, so these two guys are like super famous because of Game of Thrones. They put it together. They didn't do the books. Obviously, that's George R. R. Martin, but they put the show together, and that show's won so many awards and stuff like that. These guys are on top, where basically they could get whatever gig they want. And over a year ago, as the article said, they were talking with Disney because Disney needs some help with Star Wars after the problems with The Last Jedi. And they're like, we got the Game of Thrones guys. We're going to bring them in. Now, the word is from them is the reason why they stepped down. They said because they also have things going on with Netflix. Netflix apparently gave them, I've heard anywhere from $100 million to $200 million to develop content for Netflix, shows, movies, whatever. And they said... And now they signed a Disney contract over a year ago. They signed the Netflix contract, from what I understand, sometime in August. And that's what's going on. They said, we just don't have time to do both, which sounds really weird to me. Because it's like, wait, you signed a contract with Lucasfilm, who's run by Disney. Yeah. You signed something with Disney, you just don't step away from it. So it doesn't make sense. They won't
let you.
Yeah, so it doesn't make...
Be strangled.
Exactly, right?
They'll break your legs. Yeah. They're Disney.
Yeah.
They own you. Yeah. Once you sign that contract, they legally own you.
Yeah. You wake up in your bed one morning, you're strapped down, and they go, Mickey Mouse with a sledgehammer breaks your fucking legs.
Yeah.
So it doesn't...
It's his misery, but the Disney version of it.
Yeah. Misery. So it doesn't make any sense because more information from the article says, as of October 25th, Disney had staked out release dates for untitled Star Wars films in 2022, 2024, and 2026. In an earnings call earlier this year, just before the Game of Thrones finale, CEO Bob Iger said that those dates were for Benioff and Weiss's trilogy. And a lot of people, like I said, it doesn't make sense, and a lot of people are calling bullshit too. One of the rumors is that the reason why they stepped down is because as I'm sure you guys know, the Game of Thrones. I didn't watch Game of Thrones. Going to be honest about it.
I never got into it.
Oh my gosh, are there 3 people in one room that never saw Game of Thrones?
Oh my God, we are the Trinity.
This is it. This is
it.
it.
The gavel, that's what
we're the Triforce
that's
of
what it's for. Here we go.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
Fuck Game of Thrones. No, I'm just kidding.
Unite.
I just don't have HBO, so I never got around to watch.
A bunch of people that like heard what the Red Wedding was, and I was like, "What the fuck is happening on this show? This show sounds dumb."
So the rumor was that because of all the toxic fan backlash they got because of the way Game of Thrones ended.
I know about that.
Yeah,
I do know people were upset.
Too. Yeah.
They stepped down because they were afraid of more toxic backlash from the Star Wars community, and that is pretty prevalent in the Star Wars community. I'm not going to deny that. But that still doesn't make sense because they signed a contract with Disney. And I don't care what is, that's not it. Now, the latest rumor, which is what does make sense to me, was remember, they signed the contract with Disney at least a year ago, and then this past August, they signed a contract with Netflix. The actual word is that Kathleen Kennedy, the head of Lucasfilm, did not like that. The rumor is that she was under the understanding that these two men would be committed to Star Wars for a while before taking on any other projects. And the fact that they took on projects for Netflix, which will soon be a competitor to Disney streaming service Disney Plus, irritated Kathleen Kennedy and the Disney people, which makes a lot of sense. Tandem. Star Wars is in a very uneven place. We were talking about this last week when we were reviewing the final trailer, that the Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, needs to be a win for Star Wars because it's in a weird, wonky place right now because of the last couple movies. Mm-hmm. And the fact that and if I was Kathleen Kennedy and I you would think that I'd be pretty upset too. It's like, no, I need you guys, your full attention on Star Wars. I thought we had this understanding. Now, whether this is a failure on Kathleen Kennedy's part to communicate this, or Benioff and Weiss were just like, fuck it, I don't know. Or maybe they thought they could juggle it all and they didn't think it was going to be a problem. But it just makes Kathleen Kennedy, once again, not look that great, because she's been having a lot of struggles running Lucasfilm. Krish, what do you got to say on this?
I think Star Wars is a struggling franchise. Like, they've been struggling since Last Jedi. Like,
Yeah.
I felt like everybody was, like, kind of okay with A Force Awakens, and then they were like, okay, we get it. This guy's, like, living out his New Hope fantasies, just like he did with the Star Trek franchise, right? J.J. Abrams was basically like, hey, I want to make A New Hope, but, like, different, and that's what he did. And then, like, we got Last Jedi, which was fun. Like, it was a decent movie. I enjoyed it. There were a couple problems I had with it, but I feel like it's in this weird phase as a franchise where, like, it hasn't really had this big pop-off moment that I think everybody thought it was going to have, because Solo didn't really do that great. Like, Solo had, like, a couple of cool scenes, and at the end, your spoilers, is like, oh, they're connected to Darth Maul. Okay, that's cool, but there's like no, but that's the thing is, like, but the payoff is so kind of weak, because you're like, well, he's fucking dead, right? Like Rebels kind of solidified that. So there's nothing really like hooking people into it. You created this universe, you created the MCU, which hooked people basically every single movie, right? And like, the movies in it, like, some of the movies didn't even have to be that good, you know, like Thor: Dark World. I still went to see that in theaters, you know, like, people are still gonna go see even the worst MCU movie and be like, okay, well, that was fun. But I feel like Star Wars is at that place where people are literally like, hey, if this movie doesn't do well, we're fucking done with this franchise. And that's like a real scary place for people
I'd back
to be
off
in.
too. I would be like, I don't think I want to touch this.
Yeah.
Y'all can fuck it up. I don't want my name attached to it.
Well, that's the thing, is it's so much pressure to just say that this is the only project that you'll be working on for what, 6 years now? Like, that's a long time to be dedicated to, like, create this franchise. And I think what this what's her name?
Kathleen Kennedy.
Kathleen Kennedy might have wanted these guys to do is to kind of create an MCU version of Star Wars based on all the stuff that they have. And they also have, like, Game of Thrones background, right? So it's all this, like, fantasy realm stuff. And for me, as a Star Wars fan, I've always been like, why are we not doing a movie that that's all about, like, the Jedi and Sith mythos?
Okay.
Like, there's a lot of that you can kind of grab from. Like, why not bring that into canon? And I bet you, like, this lady was like, oh, they have a fantasy background, they could probably do that. But I don't blame them for backing down. I don't blame them for saying that I'm 6 years of my life dedicated to this one thing. You just got off a show where you dedicated a decade of your life to. Go work on some weird shit. I don't like, that's fine. I feel like these guys made a good. Yeah, well, I feel like they made a good call for their own career, and I feel like, I don't know, you got to find somebody that's way more dedicated to the Star Wars franchise to, like, really spearhead it the way that I think Kathleen Kennedy wants to spearhead it.
I think what really went down, because Kathleen Kennedy's had a lot of problems with directors coming in and doing stuff. Colin Trevorrow, who did Jurassic World, was supposed to do a movie, but then he dropped out due to creative differences. Lord and Miller, who did the Lego movie, were the original directors for the Solo film, and they filmed most of it, but then Kathleen Kennedy found out that they were not making the movie that they had agreed upon, so they were kicked out, and then they brought in Ron Howard to finish the film and do reshoots and all that stuff.
Oh, Jesus.
Which, despite that, I think Solo still turned out pretty well. It has its problems, but it was entertaining.
Yeah.
I just wonder, like, these guys commit suicide after breaking a contract with Disney. Can we be the ones to be like, I fucking told you?
A year from now, no one's gonna give a shit about Epstein. It's gonna be Benioff and Weiss.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
The fourth will be with you always.
Yeah.
And Benioff and Weiss didn't commit suicide.
And then in 2026, they come back as Force Ghosts.
We CGI them in just to put salt in the wound. But here's the thing I'll say. I'll talk about Kathleen Kennedy. Now, the reason why a lot of people have been hating Kathleen Kennedy for a while now, they're blaming her for everything that's going wrong with Lucasfilm and the Star Wars movies and all that stuff. The reason why she got head of Lucasfilm is because Kathleen Kennedy worked for decades with George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. She was highly respected by both of them as a producer because that's what her thing was. And to give her some credits here, she has been a producer on such movies, and I'm not listing them all because she has a long, long resume of producing credits. E.T., Poltergeist, The Goonies,
Wow.
Temple of Doom, Back to the Future, Jurassic Park, The Sixth Sense, and the list goes on, ladies and gentlemen. She was highly, highly respected in Hollywood for as being a producer. Spielberg loved her. I think he said she was either one of the best or the best producers he's ever worked with.
Damn.
So as producer, this woman is a fucking fourth-degree black belt. And the reason why she was put in charge head of Lucasfilm is because George Lucas made her so right before he finished a deal to sell Lucasfilm to Disney. We can assume maybe that because he trusted her so much, he wanted her in charge of Lucasfilm while under Disney control. And unfortunately, I think she needs to go back to producing because too many problems have popped up with Star Wars and Lucasfilm in general. I'm sure she's a very intelligent woman. I'm sure she's hardworking. I'm sure she has great ideas as a producer, but so far I'm just not seeing this. I mean, hopefully, like I said, hopefully episode 9 will be a win. Hopefully the new Star Wars show, The Mandalorian, which has a lot of positive hype going into it right now, that will be good. But I'm starting to think that I don't think she can carry this for much longer, even if the Mandalorian and episode 9 are wins. So
Mandalorian looks dope.
Yeah, it does look cool.
I want to see Mandalorian real fucking bad. It sucks that they have me sold on this Disney Plus thing to the point where I'm like, oh, I gotta figure out how to get Hulu.
Yeah.
I'm not.
I'll let
I'm
you
like,
use
I'm
my
not.
password.
Oh, thank you.
Well, if you get the big if you get like the $13 package, you get Disney Plus and Hulu.
I know.
Yeah.
that's where like Liz and I are basically, my wife and I are we're just like, oh, should we just do it? Like, should we just pay $13 a
$13
month
$5?
for this
Why not?
entertainment package? Like,
Do it.
Yeah, I know. Why? I want to because it's just it's all the things that we enjoy watching together.
We'll split it.
So yeah,
we'll do a three-way split.
get a split down the middle.
But anyway, so that's so Star Wars once again, problems popping up. It doesn't, and it's kind of feeling kind of normal at this point. I got to be honest. But
I am excited for Kenobi though.
Yeah,
That'll be nice.
I'll be more excited once I get some details on it. I'll say that.
Good point.
Hey everybody, hope you enjoyed that clip. We live stream every Thursday night on our Twitch channel, and of course check us out on the River's Edge Online Radio Network.